In a moment that's shaking the monarchy to its core, Princess Catherine discovered a hidden safe deep within Queen Camilla's private quarters. And inside, dozens of handwritten letters from Princess Diana, believed to have been stolen and locked away for decades. The contents? Emotional confessions, secrets never meant to be buried, and truths that could rewrite royal history. Catherine was reportedly overwhelmed with emotion, breaking down in tears as she read Diana's words aloud. And now, the palace is scrambling to control the fallout. But the truth is already out, and there's no turning back. The shock moment. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon, around 4 p.m., when Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped into a rarely used sitting room tucked away in Camilla's private wing of Clarence House. The room hadn't been entered in months, maybe even years. Dust floated in the soft light streaming through the tall windows. Catherine was simply looking for a forgotten piece of family heirloom jewelry once stored there. But something didn't feel right. The floor creaked unevenly beneath her, and a strange, faint electrical hum seemed to come from behind the east wall. Drawn by instinct more than logic, she knelt near a panel with uneven grooves. A light press. Nothing. A second press. Click. The panel slid back an inch. What she found behind it changed everything. A heavy, dust-covered safe, wedged into the recess like it had been hidden decades ago. No label, no identification, just cold steel and silence. Catherine froze. For nearly a full minute, she didn't move. Her hands trembled as she reached out, fingers tracing the rusting lock. Her breath caught. This wasn't part of any official storage or royal archive. The air felt thicker now, charged. Catherine whispered to herself, "Why is this here?" The room, the panel, the safe, all of it was deliberate. But who had hidden it? And more importantly, what was so dangerous that it needed to be sealed away like this? The silence pressed in on her. But what came next would hit far harder. Catherine didn't call anyone, not even William. Her instincts told her this discovery wasn't just about the past. It was about something still being actively hidden. With her heart pounding, she examined the lock once more. And just when she thought she'd need to force it open, something unexpected happened. The safe's secrets. Tucked under a nearby drawer, she found a thin velvet pouch. Inside it, to her disbelief, was a small silver key, engraved faintly with the initials CRP, standing for Camilla Rosemary Parker. The key slid smoothly into the safe's lock. One slow turn. The mechanism groaned, reluctant after years of stillness. Then, a final click. The door opened. What Catherine saw inside nearly made her collapse. This wasn't a jewelry vault. This was something entirely different. Stacked carefully were 24 sealed envelopes, each one marked in flowing handwriting. Diana. Some bore dates, 1995, 1996, 1997, and others had titles like "For Charles Only" or "To My Sons." Alongside them were archival folders protected in airtight sleeves. Inside, handwritten letters, official royal seals, and what looked like deeply personal photographs, some of which Catherine had never seen before, even in the royal collection. There were also small velvet boxes containing delicate keepsakes, a pressed flower, a broken locket, a folded hospital receipt from 1992. These were not officially archived documents. These were hidden, and they had no business being in Camilla's private quarters. Catherine suddenly realized this wasn't just a forgotten safe. It was a vault of secrets, stolen and sealed for a reason. The dust, the isolation, the secrecy, it all pointed to one truth. Someone had gone to great lengths to make sure no one would ever find this. And yet, here it was, Catherine knew what she held could tear open old wounds or heal them. But she also knew there was no turning back now. Her hands shaking, she selected one envelope, the one marked simply, "To William." Her eyes filled with tears before she even opened it, and when she began to read, the room felt like it stopped breathing. Tears and realization. The paper was worn but strong, yellowed only slightly with time. Diana's handwriting, familiar from old holiday cards and archived palace notes, was unmistakable. The letter dated February 14, 1997, just months before her tragic death, began with a single line: "My darling William, there are truths I was never allowed to say." The next 3 paragraphs read like a confession. Diana wrote of feeling isolated, emotionally trapped and betrayed, not just by Charles, but by Camilla and the system that kept her silent. She described secret meetings, confrontations in 1993, and a dinner in Kensington, where she directly pleaded with Charles to reconsider his relationship with Camilla, especially for the sake of the boys. Catherine's voice cracked as she read portions aloud. "They painted me as hysterical, but I was simply exhausted from being erased." Diana had poured her soul into these letters. This wasn't a woman trying to be remembered. This was a mother trying to protect her sons from history being rewritten. One line hit Catherine the hardest. "If anything ever happens to me, promise me you'll tell the truth. Not their truth, mine." Catherine pressed the letter to her chest. Her tears ran freely now. She wasn't just holding a document. She was holding Diana's lost voice. Camilla's role exposed. Catherine sat motionless in that cold, forgotten room of Clarence House, letter in hand, the safe yawning open beside her. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. She had just read one of the most personal documents Diana ever wrote, and it had been hidden for over 25 years, locked away not in the royal archives, but in a private safe inside Queen Camilla's quarters. Her eyes scanned the other letters. One bore the seal of Kensington Palace. Another had a lipstick print on the back, a detail Catherine remembered being mentioned once by Lady Sarah McCorquodale, Diana's sister, in a private family story. These were real, personal, authentic. But then came the realization that made her blood run cold. Stamped discreetly on the corner of the archival sleeves were Camilla's initials again. CRP, this time beneath a unique symbol resembling a rose entwined with a crown. This wasn't coincidence. This was Camilla's personal stamp, used on her private collections. These items had been deliberately archived, preserved, and kept, but not shared, not gifted, not donated, not handed over to the royal collection. Stolen. And someone had helped her do it. A deeper search in the safe revealed a logbook, handwritten, with dated entries going back to 2005. One entry read, "Box number 7 relocated to the East Wing during Kensington renovations. Seal remains unbroken." Another, dated March 2006, read, "Locked in East Room safe per CRP instructions. No staff access permitted. Sign confidentiality form." Catherine's hands trembled again. She realized this wasn't just a hiding place. It was a controlled environment. The letters had been removed, probably during the extensive 2004 to 2005 renovations of Kensington Palace, when royal wings were being shifted, cleared, and restored. Camilla, still Duchess of Cornwall at the time, had limited but strategic access. Enough to move unnoticed. Enough to take what she wanted. Catherine's heart sank. This wasn't a mistake. This was curated theft, hidden behind royal protocol. And Diana's voice had been locked away, guarded by the very woman who had played a central role in her deepest pain. Catherine now faced a crushing choice. Bring this to light and face royal fury? Or bury it again and protect the crown's fragile image? But something inside her whispered, Diana wouldn't want silence. She needed to be heard. Catherine summoned a trusted aide. The next day, a forensic team entered the room under total secrecy. What they found next pulled the entire palace into a storm it could no longer contain. The vault's forensics. The investigation began within 24 hours. Catherine, with quiet authority, ordered a full forensic sweep of the vault. Not through palace security, but with independent experts loyal to her, not the institution. 3 specialists arrived under cover of nightfall, experts in document preservation, trace residue, and forensic timeline mapping. What they uncovered only made the situation more explosive. First, the envelopes and sleeves, dated between 1993 and 1997, showed matching aging patterns consistent with original materials. But more crucially, several bore faint smudge patterns indicating they'd been handled with gloves, except for one box lid that still held partial fingerprints. One analyst confirmed, "These prints match an archived palace file for staff YD 00984. That's Staffer? A former assistant archivist who abruptly resigned in 2006 under mysterious circumstances. His file was sealed. The implication? He helped move or hide the materials, possibly under orders. Further, chemical residue around the safe revealed specialized archival gas used to preserve fragile documents, not something palace staff had casual access to. This gas had only been approved for royal preservation use starting in 2002, and records showed Camilla's private archivist ordered a canister shipment in May 2003. Another breakthrough came when cross-referencing Clarence House blueprints from 1997 to 2010. The hidden recess behind the panel? It did not exist in older plans. A structural change had been added in 2004, conveniently during the time Camilla moved into the residence officially after marrying Charles. In short, the hiding place had been custom-built, and it had only one purpose: to bury the past. But who helped? Why? And how far did it go? Word of the discovery was tightly controlled, but not for long. Whispers among staff turned to quiet rumors, and within days, someone leaked a vague but chilling message to a tabloid editor. It read, "Diana's voice has been found." When Catherine returned to Kensington, she was no longer just the Princess of Wales. She was the keeper of a secret the palace couldn't afford to let the world hear: palace panic. The moment King Charles III was briefed, chaos erupted inside the palace. Senior aides, royal legal advisors, and private secretaries were summoned to an emergency meeting at St. James's Palace, just 3 hours after the findings were confirmed. Security teams were dispatched to Clarence House, Camilla's quarters were sealed, and all internal communications were marked top confidential. But it was already too late. A leak had slipped to the Daily Mirror, and by 6:45 a.m. the following morning, a headline exploded across the UK. "Safe of Secrets: Diana's private letters discovered in Clarence House vault." Public fury ignited instantly. The palace issued a rushed, cold statement. These letters were mistakenly stored during renovations. Her Majesty Queen Camilla had no direct knowledge of the safe's contents. But few believed it, especially not after retired royal staffers came forward, anonymously, claiming they had once been instructed to keep out of room 14 East unless summoned by CRP. Inside the palace, loyalties began to split. William, deeply protective of both his mother's memory and his wife, was reportedly devastated and furious. Charles, caught between his queen and his son, was described by sources as aged overnight. Meanwhile, Camilla kept an eerie silence, refusing public appearances and remaining behind closed doors for 72 hours. Royal courtiers scrambled. Who had access? Who had known? And worse, who else had seen those letters before Catherine did? The sense of betrayal ran deep. And then came the real crisis. Fragments of one letter appeared in The Guardian, revealing Diana had written, "I know they will try to erase me, but I leave these pages for my boys and for the truth." The monarchy wasn't just shaken, it was exposed. The media storm. Diana's words explode across headlines. Within hours of The Guardian's partial leak, the global media went into overdrive. News networks from New York to Sydney led with one story. Princess Diana's hidden letters had been discovered, and Queen Camilla had kept them locked away for nearly 2 decades. Tabloid headlines screamed, "Diana's voice returns from the grave." Camilla knew. Catherine found it. Royal betrayal buried in a safe. By day 3, royal correspondents were arguing live on air. Emily Andrews and Jenny Bond debated whether the letters were genuine historical artifacts or a form of emotional sabotage. Meanwhile, BBC's royal unit confirmed through sources that at least 24 letters had been found, all previously unknown to the royal archives. Panic gripped the palace press office. Internally, they struggled to contain the leak, but the more they denied, the louder the outrage grew. X, formerly Twitter, exploded with hashtags like #Diana's Truth, #Camilla Exposed, and #Catherine the Protector. A second leak hit by Thursday evening, this time to The Times, revealing Diana's alleged line, "He promised me she was a friend, not a future queen." The words hit like a dagger. Public opinion shifted dramatically. Polls showed a 42% drop in support for Queen Camilla in just 48 hours. Commentators began to ask the one question the palace feared most. If Camilla hid these letters, what else has she hidden? And then the demands began. Release the letters. Tell the truth. Let Diana speak. Behind the walls of Buckingham Palace, the battle lines were being drawn. This wasn't just a PR crisis anymore. It was a family war. And while the world focused on the headlines, inside the firm, loyalties were fracturing fast. Catherine had unintentionally unleashed a royal reckoning. But what came next would divide the monarchy like never before. Allies and factions. The royal family was imploding from the inside. Behind closed doors, whispers turned into full-blown accusations. Catherine's allies, including Princess Anne, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, and several younger staffers, rallied behind her, arguing she had done what was right. Diana would have wanted this brought to light, one courtier was overheard saying. But Camilla's defenders weren't staying silent. Her longtime aide, Angela Parker Bowles, released a pointed statement to the Telegraph. Her Majesty never intended harm. The letters were safeguarded from exploitation. William, caught between duty and rage, refused to speak to Camilla. For 5 days, the heir to the throne reportedly avoided all family contact except with Catherine and Charles. Insiders described him as visibly shaken, emotionally exhausted, and deeply protective. Charles, on the other hand, was in freefall. One insider described him as a king under siege, helpless to defend Camilla without appearing complicit. Even his private secretary was rumored to have offered resignation twice. Meanwhile, palace staff were being interrogated quietly. 3 senior aides were removed from Clarence House under suspicion of helping conceal the letters. Loyalty tests began. Every advisor, assistant, and security team member was asked to re-sign updated NDAs. Lines had been drawn. You were either Team Diana or Team Camilla. And as one royal historian put it, this isn't just a scandal. It's a war for the soul of the monarchy. But beyond the politics, one truth could no longer be silenced. Diana's letters were real, raw, and they told a story the world hadn't heard. Catherine knew this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about legacy, and as the letters were examined more closely, their contents began to challenge everything the public thought they knew about the most tragic royal of the modern era. Legacy rewrite. Over the next 2 weeks, the forensic team authenticated every letter. Each one bore consistent ink degradation patterns, watermarks from the 1990s Kensington Palace stationery, and even emotional language that perfectly matched known writings from Diana's final years. Then came the moment no one expected. Catherine personally selected 5 letters and handed them to the Royal Historical Society for review and public release. The content? Shocking. One letter described Diana's final conversations with Charles in July 1997, where she pleaded for a more open relationship with her sons. Another revealed how she had been warned not to publicly speak about Camilla's involvement, or risk losing access to William and Harry. Another chilling line: "If I die suddenly, please look deeper." My silence was bought, not given. Diana's narrative had long been controlled by documentaries, books, and royal spin. But now, her own voice was setting the record straight. Public perception shifted overnight. Polls showed over 68% of Britons now saw Diana as a deliberately silenced truth-teller. Meanwhile, Camilla's image, already delicate, shattered. Articles surfaced questioning her entire ascension to queen. Social media was brutal. Newspapers ran headlines like, "The Queen of Secrets. Was Camilla always hiding Diana's truth?" But amid the chaos, one figure stood tall: Catherine. The public saw her not as a troublemaker, but as a guardian of Diana's legacy. Quiet, composed, brave. And as one paper put it, Catherine has done what no royal ever dared. She let Diana speak again. But the world wasn't done with this story. Legal teams, commissions, and journalists now wanted to know who really owned these letters. Why were they hidden? Could more be out there? And as pressure mounted, Catherine faced the biggest decision of her royal life: stay silent or go public. What happened next would define the monarchy for a generation. What happens next? By the 3rd week, Buckingham Palace was forced to act. Under mounting public pressure and international media glare, King Charles III authorized a formal inquiry, the Royal Archives Transparency Commission, tasked with reviewing the letters' origins, how they were hidden, and whether crimes had been committed. Camilla, under extreme pressure, agreed to temporarily step back from royal duties. In a brief, trembling televised statement, she said, "I never wish to hurt anyone. If mistakes were made, I am deeply sorry." But for many, it wasn't enough. Catherine, meanwhile, made a bold move. With William's blessing, she authorized a public exhibition of selected letters to be displayed at Kensington Palace, titled, "Diana, in her own words, the truth recovered." The line to view stretched for blocks. Simultaneously, lawyers for Diana's estate launched a case questioning the ownership of personal effects hidden without consent. Early hearings hinted at possible criminal concealment, and several former staff were subpoenaed. The case was far from over. But one thing was clear: the monarchy could never return to business as usual. Catherine's quiet act of courage had ignited a royal reckoning. Diana's words had changed history, not through interviews, not through books, but through her own pen. And Camilla's hold on the royal image? Shattered. Some insiders whispered, Charles may eventually strip her of her title, or at the very least, remove her from succession-related duties. But to the public, one thing was undeniable. Diana had finally been heard, and it was Catherine, not the crown, who gave her that voice. As the dust settles over this shocking discovery, one thing has become clear. Catherine has stepped into a new kind of power. What started as a quiet search in a forgotten room ended with a royal reckoning decades in the making. By finding and revealing these hidden letters, Catherine didn't just stumble upon a secret. She unearthed a legacy that had been deliberately buried. The palace may try to spin it, but the public saw the truth in her tears. She wasn't acting as a future queen, or even a royal wife. In that moment, she was a daughter-in-law mourning the mother her husband lost, holding Diana's voice in her trembling hands. The revelations inside those letters, Diana's fears, warnings, heartbreak, cut deeper than any public statement ever could. They weren't meant for historians. They were personal, emotional, real. And someone had gone to great lengths to make sure no one ever saw them again. That someone? Camilla. Her initials on the folders, her private safe, her silence. It all points to a calculated effort to guard a version of the past that served her rise to queen. But now that past is unraveling, and so is her public image. The question now is no longer if the monarchy will respond, but how. Will they open the archives? Will there be a public investigation? Or will they close ranks, protect their own, and hope the story fades? But with public pressure mounting and the media circling like hawks, silence may no longer be an option. Royal watchers have already chosen their side, and it's not with Camilla. It's with Catherine, the woman who faced the truth, wept for Diana, and refused to let her be forgotten. Because in the end, this wasn't just about dusty letters or old family drama. This was about truth, and who gets to tell it. And now that Diana's words are out in the open, the palace can no longer write the ending. Diana has already written it, and thanks to Catherine, we're finally reading it.